You're listening to Ask Dr. Jake. My name is Dr. Jake Tucker, owner and founder of Good Life Family Chiropractic here on the south side of Lincoln. You can reach our office at 531 289 7100. If you have a question for me, feel free to go to Facebook, facebook.com/Ask Dr. Jake, and leave a comment on this video that I'm streaming. And I will go through those and answer those in either upcoming shows by direct message response or by setting up a consultation with you to go through your health history thoroughly. We can do those virtually. We're offering callers today an opportunity to do those at no cost, a virtual health consultation, or you can come into the office, get a thorough examination, any necessary imaging and x-rays, all for a 50% discount if you're one of the first 5 callers today. And we set that up for this week. We're coming to you today with another message of hope, health, and wholeness, as we do every single weekday here on KCRO and streaming live on facebook.com. You can also download these podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple Store or what used to be known as iTunes, or you download these from Google Play or wherever you get your podcasts. We just want you to be able to plug in and get more information. But today I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about why our healthcare system is so bad. Because ultimately, when I get questions, it really comes down to, why am I so sick? And the first reason that I find that our healthcare system is just so bad, and it's not even the system itself, it's the culture behind the system, it's the ideology, it's the philosophy of health. And it really comes down to, number one, it's a reactive system. We don't even enter our healthcare system until we get a symptom. We get a symptom, we start feeling bad, and then we go to the doctor looking for a diagnosis. So he runs a test, he gives us a diagnosis, which, don't get me started on diagnoses. They're literally just Latin descriptions of what you're going through. That's it. And then they input that into a computer, it runs it through an algorithm, and based off the algorithm, it outputs, what your diagnosis is and what medications you should be taking. From there, if those medications help, wonderful, great. You're going to be taking those medications for the rest of your life, very likely. The average American last year was on 11 different medications. And don't worry, I'm on none right now. So that means one of you is out there on 22. I've had patients on over 40 different medications. And because they were so focused on just managing symptoms, they ended up not just sticking with that same doctor, but having to go to a different doctor, a special doctor. And he would run a special test, maybe even get a special diagnosis, and then give you a special drug, special medication, all for a special price. He's called a specialist. And if that didn't work, then you ended up in a surgeon's office. The surgeon analyzes, the organ cells and tissues that, are at risk for, death. And so he decides whether or not you are a good candidate to have those organ cells or tissues removed. Now, that's our healthcare system in a nutshell. You throw in a few physical therapists, a few doctors of osteopathy or whatever, and you've got our healthcare system. Now, this is the most expensive healthcare system in the world. It's the number one cause of bankruptcy. It costs each of us an average of over $11,000 every single year, just out-of-pocket costs. It's not doing well. You'd think with all that money spent, with the top medical doctors in the world, with the top healthcare professionals in the world, that we would have one of the top healthcare systems in the world. But in spite of some of the best access to all of those best things inside of this medical paradigm, we're actually doing 72nd overall when it comes to health, when it comes to healthcare system, when it comes to overall health. When you're comparing apples to apples, out of 37 industrialized nations, our people are the sickest amongst all the industrialized countries of the world. And so it does it. Number one, that the reason for that is it starts with this mindset that we don't invest in our health until after we're sick or after we feel it. And the second reason that we're doing so poorly is because we don't even know what health is. We don't know what health is. You can have the best intentions for health in the world. You can be proactive instead of reactive with this, right? Because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But if you do not know what health is, then you will never get there. It's like trying to get to Miami and choosing to go on I-80 West to get there. You're never going to get there. If you go the wrong direction, it doesn't matter your intentions. You won't ever get there. And so you have to start with what it is not. And it's not this idea of waiting until you feel a symptom. Health is not looking good and feeling good. No definition of health in the world defines health as how you look or how you feel. But when you look at what's killing Americans, it's killing us because we're basing our health on this. We wait until we feel a symptom to do anything. And if you're waiting for let's say the top 2/3 of all deaths, that's cancer and heart disease, all right there. Between those two causes of death, you've got 63% of all deaths that happened in the United States last year. If you waited until you felt heart disease, you waited an average of 20 years of actively having heart disease building in your body before you felt a symptom. It was 840,000 deaths last year. You know what the number one most common symptom was for heart disease? The first symptom you felt over 63% of the time was the heart attack itself. And even though we have the best trauma care system in the world, it was still just a 50% survival rate. That's the best survival rate in the world. And you have a 1 in 2 chance of not waking up from it. And that's all based on how you look and how you feel. If you base your heart health on how you look and how you feel, you're setting yourself up for failure. So let's take cancer. Number 2 cause of death, 600,000 plus last year. If you waited until you felt it, 20 years of having it, again, on average. So we know that that's not a good idea because at 10 years of having cancer is considered lethal. So we go and we get cancer screenings, get this thing detected early. We get our colonoscopies, we get our mammograms, we get our prostates checked. If we see anything abnormal, we go in for a PET scan or an MRI, or we get a biopsy. But even by our best tests, it still takes cancer growing inside your body 8 years before it's detectable. 2 years before it's considered lethal. And so relying on how you feel in order to determine your health is setting you up for failure. And so if you want to be healthy, you have to know what health is. Let's start with the real definition. According to the World Health Organization, your health is a state of 100% optimal function and the ability of your body to heal across mental, emotional, and physical levels. If you're optimally functioning and healing, then you are healthy. But if you're not, then you'd think you'd feel it, right? Well, the problem comes on the scale of 0 to 100% function. You do not feel a symptom until you've lost 40% function. Now, you can have that happen in an instant, right? Pain is a great indicator that something is going wrong. And you could break a bone and feel that instantly. You can get in a car accident and have whiplash and feel that instantly. That's that immediate drop from 100 down to about 60% function or less happening in an instant. But for things that actually matter for our health, things like heart disease, things like cancer, things like diabetes, it's not one decision or one incident that creates that. It's years and years and years of making poor decisions across every component. We call these key components the 5 essentials in Max Living offices. There's 350 offices like us across the country, and you can find the closest one to you at maxliving.com. But if you're looking to be healthy, you have to address all 5 of these essentials. Number 1, it's the mental component. We call it maximized mindset. If you maximize your mindset by reducing stress, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, taking time to pray and meditate and rest, spending time with family, spending time doing things you enjoy to counterbalance the things that you don't enjoy, you reduce that stress, you improve your health overall. If you lose that function, if you lose that component, you start to decrease in health. The second essential is probably the one that most people ignore in this country. In fact, for a medical doctor to address this essential, you have to have a severe neurological deficit to even begin to address maximized nerve supply. Maximized nerve supply recognizes that health, being a state of 100% optimal function and healing, we have to address the system that controls function and healing. And that's your central nervous system. When God formed you, when he took that sperm and the egg and he brought them together, and they start duplicating and replicating themselves 36 trillion times, creating this living, loving, thinking clay that's sitting on the opposite side of the radio from each other this morning. It took an intelligence. He also created an intelligence behind that. That intelligence continues to reside inside your nervous system. It replaces you at a cellular level once every 15 years, every 15 to 20. Your stomach lining once every 3 days. Your small intestines once every several days as well. Your heart and lungs once every 5 to 10 years. That power continues to animate and control you. It's what keeps your heart beating. It keeps your lungs breathing. It heals a cut on your leg, and it resides in your brain, runs down the spinal cord, out the nerves to every organ, cell, and tissue. It doesn't happen any other way. And we know that because if we separate that intelligence by cutting the brain stem, every organ, cell, and tissue below dies immediately. If we cut the nerves going to the heart dies and you die. But that's incredibly rare. Why? Because God surrounded and protected the central nervous system with bone. The spine, the spinal column, and every individual vertebra surround and protect the brain stem, the spinal cord, and each of the nerve roots. And it has a normal position. It should be straight up and down from the front with 345-degree curves from the side. In that position, there can be no pressure or damage on your nervous system. But you take that out of alignment, even 2 millimeters or 2 degrees, and you leave that for 5 minutes or more. And research shows us that that can reduce the communication between your brain and the organs, cells, and tissues at the other end by as much as 60% if just left there for that long, just 5 minutes. If that stays there, it immediately starts to degenerate. That's what forms arthritis. The subluxation, this is what this is called. Subluxation, literally meaning less light, if left there, degenerates at a rate of 7% per year, to the point where you go through these stages of arthritis: phase 0, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and ultimately phase 4. Most people don't make it to phase 4 because by phase 4, you're not looking at much life expectancy left. But that's why chiropractic and maintaining spinal health is so important. But most people don't do it. It's something that should be done on a daily basis, taking your spine through the motions. That's why people with yoga have less degeneration and arthritis, because not because they meditate necessarily, but because they're elongating their spine, they're moving their spine through the motions. But you actually need a chiropractor to be able to assess this and make sure that their nervous system is healthy and functioning well. The third essential is nutrition. Because your body is constantly reproducing and recreating itself through this intelligence that God put there, it needs some products to work with. It needs some nutrients to work with to build you up and rebuild you over and over again. We have to be putting real foods in our body, non-inflammatory foods, non-processed foods, healthy fats, essential fatty acids, essential micronutrients, things that our bodies need, essential amino acids, things that your body can't produce on their own. We need to be getting these in, and that's not taking a multivitamin. For some of us, we do need to supplement with things like multivitamins. But if we're not getting real food, then it doesn't matter how many vitamins or supplements you're taking. The fourth essential is one that we're going to be focusing on at our recipe night on Monday, the 21st. If you want to come, call our office at 531-289-7100. We'll be happy to take you through it. But it really comes through movement, moving every single day, creating fitness, getting oxygen to every cell, tissue, and organ in your body. And the last essential is minimizing toxicity. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I've been Dr. Jake Tucker. Join me again tomorrow for another episode of Ask Dr. Jake.